Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Former President Calvin Coolidge summed it up very well when he said, "The foundations of our society and our government rest so much on the teachings of the Bible that it would be difficult to support them if faith in these teachings would cease to be practically universal in our country." Well stated. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning, morning, morning. Oh, there she goes, Kate Smith, and God bless America. Nobody sings it better. Thank you very much. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and really nice people to boot. You better believe it. Along with some of our great advertisers, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. And Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida and Rupert, everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch. Oh, by the way, Ted's Diesel Electric has moved to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. You better believe it, Doug Martin, rebuilding all your starters, alternators, generators, and also sells brand new. Stop over and see him at his new location, 635 21st Street in Heyburn, Ted's Diesel Electric. Right now, let's say good morning to our Pledge of Allegiance person. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Well, hello there, smiley person. Go ahead.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Hey, by the way, can you turn, if you have the ability, the feed line to me up? It's down just a little bit this morning from what it was yesterday. I'd appreciate it. Yes. Time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. My goodness, the very best of carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items. They've got it all. And the knowledge to make your home beautiful. Absolutely. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Call them 678-6945 or stop in. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And right now, here is the weather.
We do not have it, sir.
We'll go get it. All right. Find out where the weather is and then let me know on my cell phone. I can tell you it looks like it's going to be high up in the 80s today, clear skies and sunshine. And as soon as we have that weather, we will get it to you. And thank you very much. And the weather supposedly brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Apologize for that lack of weather. I don't know what happened, but we'll find out. And Wheels, let me know immediately on that, if you would, please. All right, also, I want to remind you that tomorrow we will be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And, of course, that'll be the remote broadcast in honor of Patriots Day, along with our Hats Off to Farmers. And that's going to be tomorrow morning, all 3 hours, at, of course, Ramsey Heating and Electric. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And we want you to come on down. At 7:30, we're going to have free donuts and, I think, coffee and milk. And all we're asking for is a little bit of a contribution into the Zeb at the Ranch Christmas Fund to help needy families. Appreciate that very much. By the way, also Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, with Kevin and Cindy and the whole crew serving you with the best in cleaning. I don't care what you've got, old rumply crumply Wranglers or ladies' dresses, sports jackets, whatever. When you go to pick them up, they will look brand spanking new. Check it out today at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy waiting right now to serve you. By the way, too, don't forget, first month free installation, no contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data at SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000, Idaho's number one choice for wireless Internet, 18 years and counting. You get a hold of them today. Great people at 677-8000, SafeLink Internet, serving you. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was absolutely speechless this morning when I read the article from Michelle Matthews of the Times News. Very well done. Michelle's my neighbor. And regarding the abusers of a Shetland pony. An aged Shetland pony named Patches. And when I read this, I thought to myself how inhumane, how stupid, and how heartless and worthless a person could be that would do something like this, dragging a pony on the asphalt for about a mile and a half. And I don't know about you folks, but this just shows the mentality of America and the world today. There's no caring. It's just absolutely going down the tubes. And I blame it on a lack of family, a lack of biblical and church response. I blame it on a lot of things, but how could anybody be this cruel? Here is a little Shetland pony. And the way that Michelle wrote the story, I'm sure it's exactly the way it was. Bleeding and mutilated, dazed and in shock. And I understand the pony has had to been put down, which is extremely unfortunate, but I understand. And how anybody could do this. They said that it had been beaten around the eyes and the skin cut and torn from its hindquarters, gut punctured, knees were ground to the bone, road rash covering its sides. There is no excuse for this. None. I don't care who it was or anything about these people. They should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I hope that the law has teeth enough to punish them to the point where they're going to feel sorrow for a long, long time. Now, I noticed that there is a GoFundMe account called Justice for Patches, and they're taking donations to grow the reward, and I know that I'm going to be contributing to it. I hope you do too. And I hope they get these people. I am sure it was probably more than one. And I just absolutely, my heart goes out to this family and the inhumane attitude of people. This just is beyond the pale to do something this heinous. And I hope they catch them. I really hope they catch them and lower the boom on these people as much as the law will allow. Calls are welcome. What are your thoughts about this? 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and tomorrow we'll be announcing Game 3 of our breakfast giveaway. Tomorrow at Denny's, don't forget, we're going to have our next game in the series to win a Grand Slam breakfast. Oh, boy, we've already had a couple of good winners, Rita and Randy and others. Well, by golly, you better get registered tomorrow when I announce that game. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland, and they've got another new location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, you stop in and enjoy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Great food and really nice people at Denny's Restaurant. You can bet on that. And by the way, too, our friends at Valley White Home and Ranch, they are also celebrating this weekend, of course, Patriots Day, and all that's going on. They're going to celebrate it from tomorrow all the way through Saturday, and free fountain drinks to any police officer, firefighter, EMT in uniform, plus any military, past or present, and they want to honor you that are serving our great country. God bless all of you. 20% off on all clothing items and footwear this weekend at this Patriot Day sale. That's right. And you can also get a can of glass cleaner and plus a roll of towels for just $6.99. They've got all kinds of super specials in the store at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. All your clothing, all your feed needs for your livestock, tack for your horses, everything is right there at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch. You stop in and see them today. All right, give me a call. What are your thoughts about something so heinous I can't even think about that poor little pony. I mean, my goodness sakes, I had a little pony, a couple of little ponies when I was a little kid growing up. I had one named Teddy and the other one named Pete. And, man, I just can't imagine doing something so cruel and inhumane. And if anybody has any inkling or clues or thoughts about who might have done this, be sure and call. Let's see, the Crime Stoppers at 436-5353 or 434-2320. Give them a call. My goodness. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another story that will make you a little bit sick is Hillary Clinton. It's all better now. Did you know that? Everything is better now. It's all okay. Why? Because Hillary apologized. Oh, yes. In the most sickening Pepto-Bismol interview that I have ever seen on television with any kind of a political candidate, Hillary got all teary-eyed. Seriously, she got all teary-eyed and said she goofed and that she is sorry. Oh, the tears were bubbling up in her eyes, and she talked in such a sorry, low voice. I am so sorry. Well, the reason she's sorry is because she is sorry she's fading so fast in the polls. She is dropping like a rock in a bucket of water. She's dropped like 10 more percentage points in her polls up in New Hampshire, etc. And she's trying the more human approach, different from being the Wicked Witch of the East. And in her soft little voice, and I'm not kidding you, it was so Hollywood, okay? It's like, well, Hillary, what about this? And she responded and goes, well, I don't know. I'm so sorry. Oh, goodness sakes. It was all staged. It was all very phony. And as I call it, the Pepto-Bismol interview of the year. It was sick. Give me your thoughts on this. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, want to remind you, too, about our friends at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport, and they provide doctor history for you on Tuesdays. Really, really nice people. Zach and the rest of the crew, they've got all your lumber, they've got all your carpet, they've got all the Western windows to help you save on your heating and cooling bills, they've got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels. It's all there. They've got an inventory extraordinaire right there at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. All right, now it's your turn. Come on, give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We'll talk about the pony, we'll talk about Hillary Clinton, and we can also talk about more on the Texas high school football players. You know, I had a couple of calls yesterday on my cell phone after the program, and these callers said, oh, well, these 17-year-old football players, they just made a mistake. No, they didn't make a mistake. There's a difference between a choice and a mistake. A mistake would have been running over the official inadvertently. That's a mistake. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. A choice was to sit back 5 or 6 yards and just run at him, mow him down, and then have another defensive back come in and spear him while he's on the ground with his helmet. That is a choice. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. It's sad what's happened in sports as far as sportsmanship and so forth, and it's really unbelievable what happened down there. I mean, knowing today that there's how many different cell phones on all the action anyway, to think they would get away with it, it'd be stupidity. But I wanted to bring up something that you probably will already know about, and maybe you've discussed, is about the CSI forum that the Times News is going to hold on the 22nd of September.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the paper and the list of the organizations that are going to be participating, it looks like a cheerleading squad for the refugee program.
Absolutely.
It's, you know, we got the U.S. State Department, they're pro-Muslim. CSI refugee programs, pro-Muslim. College Southern Idaho, obviously getting big bucks out of the deal. City Twin Falls, the one city council people that I've talked to, there's one that has a wife that's very pro-refugee program, and the rest of them are kind of just clueless about the whole thing. Well, school district.
Well, let me interrupt you right there, Adrian.
Students, and so.
Adrian, let me interrupt you.
There's more to build more facilities, obviously. And the healthcare community, I don't know, I think they'll probably be clueless too. So it's just a cheerleading group for the refugee program.
All right, let me jump in here, Adrian. Adrian, let me jump in. One question that needs to be asked of these people at either CSI or the Times News that's not being asked is, where did they get their information that all the refugees are vetted and we know everything about them? Because just this morning, more people from the State Department, more people from Homeland Security are coming out and saying it is impossible. Those are the words they use, not me. They said it is impossible to check and vet all of the Syrian refugees and find out information about them. They said we don't know who or what they are or what they represent. So why is the college coming out and saying they're thoroughly vetted, everything is A-OK?
Well, it's kumbaya. It's all about the money. It's big money. There's some people in the Magic Valley making some big money off of this program, and they, you know, it's the cash cow. And off the record, that was admitted to one of my friends that the college is making some big bucks. They say, "Oh, we just get a maintenance fee for administering this program." That's what you hear on the record, but off the record, they're making some big bucks.
Yeah.
And so, folks, it's our tax money in the first place. And, you know, here they're worried about, safety about this and that and the other, environmental safety about oil drilling, or drilling for natural gas, an article on that, and the editorial page and so forth. But the safety of this community really is bringing in these unvetted, and we're trying to get a lot of answers, and we just get stonewalled. How many women are coming in with each man?
Yeah.
And we're finding a lot of cases where, and they're finding in Europe where these ISIS is probably sending in single guys that are already well trained and going to cause some major problems.
I got to do a commercial break, but I do appreciate it, and I urge everybody to go to that meeting, and I urge for questions to be asked and answers to be given, because a one-sided meeting doesn't help anybody. When you stand up and just state your statements, that doesn't help anybody.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. that they put this together, but nobody from the committee to end the refugee program, as far as I know, has been invited.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of them. Nobody. The Times News wants this to be a cheerleading squad for the refugee program, and so come out and bring your signs and protest this thing and let people know. We fill up that auditorium out there. Thank
Absolutely.
you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am absolutely against this refugee status coming into this country right now. There are too many unanswered questions. By the way, I want to just say this real quick. A tape was found and played this morning early on the news, and I'm sure it'll be played maybe just on Fox News. I don't know. Maybe some of the others, they might play it. But many of the Syrian refugees were caught on tape while they were waiting to get on trains yelling Allah, Allah Akbar, and to me that's not very comforting. The slogan and phrase used by a lot of the terrorists after the dastardly deeds have been performed, Allah, Allah Akbar. I'll tell you what, folks, we'd better really be real careful about what's coming in here to this area to live, and also possibly change the culture, or try to change the culture. Mount Harrison Audiology, don't forget, I want to say thank you very much to Christine Pickup. Oh my goodness, this lady knows all about hearing. And as we were talking on the program last week when she was here, diabetes and hearing loss are linked, as a matter of fact. And you better check that out. If you've got diabetes, you might be also suffering from hearing loss. And I didn't know that high blood pressure also can cause a loss in hearing. Well, you don't want to have your hearing diminished. You want to hear everything that's going on around you, and I suggest you call today for a hearing screening at Mount Harrison Audiology. The number to call, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. They are located right across from the Minidoka Hospital emergency room, and they are waiting to serve you. Check it out today, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Excellent, excellent people. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What are your thoughts regarding the absolute inhumane attitude of dragging a pony down the highway for a mile and a half? Hillary Clinton now realizing that if she doesn't become softer and more human, which I think is going to be hard to be, she had to apologize. Or the refugees coming into our area and all across the United States. What are your thoughts? Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I'm sure is coming in, don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, 3 locations. I almost said 2. 3 locations, South Lincoln and Jerome, and of course Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Man, oh man, all the Bobcats. Oh man, they've got a great big slug of Bobcats at all locations. And of course the big Doosan loaders, there's a couple of those big Doosan loaders right out in front of Berry Equipment at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They've got all the equipment to get the job done right, whether you're leasing or whether you're purchasing. Berry Equipment and Rental. Stop in and see them today. Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Absolutely the best. All right, your turn. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was doing a little bit of research this morning, thanks to my wife, checking on this, but you know, a couple of stories I wanted to put out and have your response on. There has been much ado about Kim Davis of Kentucky, as yesterday she was freed from jail, and she was jailed for exercising her right of religion and Christianity. Okay? But they said that because you are a government employee, you will abide by the laws and statutes. Your religion does not matter. So therefore, you either give out the gay and lesbian marriage certificates or you go to jail. She chose jail. A very harsh sentence. But you know, I was thinking about this. And Muslims in Minneapolis and around the state of Minnesota have really gone with the approach of, well, we're not going to play by your rules. We're going to develop our own rules. And in the girls' sports, Minnesota girls that are Muslim have had to design new sports uniforms that will let them play, whether it's basketball or volleyball. And the schools have consented to this and basically said, oh yeah, we'll be amenable to what their wants are. And meanwhile, the city of Minneapolis, that I know very well because I lived there for 2 years going to college, they have become recruiting grounds for Islamic extremists. And so I think capitulation and caving in to Muslims and Islam in general is coming around and biting us right on the backside. But what are your thoughts about Muslim girls going to the school and say, well, we'd like to play sports, but we can't wear the uniform as it is, so we need to have you, the school, pay for other uniforms that would best befit Muslim girls. And I've got a picture of it here. And they have their heads covered, they have knee stockings on, and then a dress over that. And that's what they're playing basketball in. But yet, we'll cater to them and their religious beliefs, but not to Kim Davis and her standing up for the Bible and that marriage is sacred between a man and a woman. A little ambiguous, I would say. Give me a call, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes. They have the, I hope I say this right, Estime treatment. And I don't know what the Estime treatment is, other than it regenerates healthy soft tissue and eliminates or reduces unwanted scar tissue. So if you're hurt, they are going after the treatment of Estime therapy that addresses the cause of your pain, not just your symptoms. Boy, I'll tell you what, they're on top of it. They are on top of it at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. And they're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And they will help you get back to being you. All you have to do is call for an appointment at 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. You get a hold of them today. I want some calls. Come on, give me a jingle. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let me know what your thoughts are on these stories this morning. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Zab.
I need you to speak up real loud, please. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You couldn't hear me. Anyway, Zeb, I just am really amazed at the hypocrisy of the left, of the progressives or whoever.
I agree. What are your thoughts about catering to the Muslims, letting them pray and block off streets in New York City? Nothing is said. We make allowances for them. Christians can't do that. The police would shuttle them off on a sidewalk and say you're in the way. What do you think about Muslim girls being adopting a new basketball uniform so they can play on the same team? I'm totally against this.
It's amazing. It's all a bunch of BS, you know. When my folks and your folks come over here, they integrated.
That's right. The melting pot, the melting...
They came legally.
Right. The melting pot of America, all melting into a solid, cohesive unit, the United States. Now we're all branched out. Now we have to pay attention to what other people's culture and other people's wants are. And you know what? I can sound calloused. If you don't want to wear the uniform of that school, a respectful uniform for either boys or girls, fine, don't play.
Exactly right. Thank you. Bye.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much. What are your thoughts? Should we bend the rules and change uniforms so that Muslim girls can play. I mean, I'm looking at a picture of it right here, and there's been quite a few stories about different female athletes that are demanding, well, yeah, we'll play, but we have to wear this. What are your thoughts? What is a uniform? It's uniting everybody in the same cause with the same piece of clothing apparel on, a uniform. And that's not the case now that we have to cater to what their wants are. What are your thoughts? Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, I'm frustrated this morning. You got to give me a jingle. Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch, big 27th annual production sale, and it's going to be this Saturday, September 12th, right up at the ranch. And that's at 1994 South, 100 East of Oakley. Sale time 11 o'clock. Preview is going to be an hour before the sale at 10, and the tradition of great, great horses continues. I'll be right there, caller. Don't go away. They've got an online sale catalog at ZollingerQuarterHorseRanch.com. You check it out today. And call Jerry for more information, 670-3833. Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch, this Saturday, big sale, and don't you miss it. Sale time at 11 a.m. Excellent horses. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Morning, Zeb. How are you?
Good, thank you.
What's his name?
I'm great. What's going on, Gary?
Regarding this... these girls and their outfits, all they're doing is adhering to their religion, which is Islam, and it supersedes anyone else's government because their religion is their government.
That's right.
And we're not so used to that here because we have a separation of church and state and all different kinds of things in a process. They don't. They have one process. It's Islam, and it is the law.
So what do we do, Gary? I mean, I agree, and I go along with everything you said because that's part of what I've already stated. But what do we do as a society? Do we keep bending and do we keep saying, well, we'll change and alter the rules so that you can be a part of it? I disagree.
Well, I do too. I don't know what to do. It's on a roll. It's absolutely insane. It's like this woman being thrown in jail for refusing to do something. She works for the government. Well, these girls, all they do is work for their government, which is their religion. So I have no idea what to do now. Look at Twin Falls. Look what's going on everywhere. We're really in trouble, and we're not even in the streets yet marching. So I don't know.
You know, let's just use a supposition here for a few moments. Let's say that we get quite a few of the refugees here and or others of that ilk, and then all of a sudden they say, well, yeah, our kids are going to play, but they're going to play under our rules. They're going to wear their uniforms that they choose because of our faith, our belief in Islam. Boy, what are we going to do? Are we going to stand up or are we going to cower to what their demands are?
I don't know if we're going to stand up or not. Look what's happened to 11 million illegals coming from Mexico. We've got a Congress and Senate to do nothing about that. So why is our government, who's in power and control, going to do anything with this? It's very disturbing. And while we sit here and talk about it, we go over and over it again. I don't see anybody really listening.
I agree. Gary, always good to hear from you, my dear friend. God bless you and have a great day.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air. Thank you. And I need you to speak up. For some reason, Wheels, the callers are not coming through very loud in my headset. Please. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I disagree with that last caller.
Why?
Not the whole thing he said, just one statement there. There is nowhere in our Constitution or our Bill of Rights that it says we are separate in our government. Our church and state are separate. They are all under God. There's no separation. That is a lie brought out by the Democratic Party. And I absolutely disagree with that.
Well, I don't think the caller was making an inference that way, Jerry, but I would tell you that the...
Right.
Wait a minute, Jerry, just a minute. I will tell you that those are the demands. that members of Islam and their faith are trying to impose upon us here in this country. The trying to impose Sharia law. The trying to impose, well, we don't have to wear that uniform. We'll wear something that goes along with our faith. You know, they're trying to change our society, and we don't have the backbone to stand up and say no.
Well, I agree with that. We do not have the backbone to stand up and say no to them, and they can say no to us, and that's wrong.
Well, it is wrong.
We all should be wearing the same shoes.
Well, we should
In
wear...
other words, we should all abide by the same rules. If we can't do stuff, they can't do stuff.
Well, it's not a matter of can't. It's not a matter of can't, but when you belong to an athletic team, you wear a uniform. Now, let's just say that all of a sudden next week when the opening, or this weekend when the opening of NFL football starts, that Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers decides, I don't want to wear a green uniform, I think I'll wear a red uniform. You know, that's not a uniform. That's not promoting the team aspect. That's not playing as a team. And I say either you wear the clothes of the team, respectful of whether it's male or female, or you don't play.
I agree with you 100% on that.
All right, Jerry, it's always good to hear from you, and I'm glad you're fired up. I know.
To be a grouchy old cuss.
No, that's all right.
Stuff gets my dander, and I get tired of people saying this separation of church and state. There is no such thing.
There you go. I agree with you. Jerry, always good to hear from you. Thanks. God bless.
You bet. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, I don't want to bend the rules. I mean, if it's a respectful uniform, okay, for ladies and or men, and it's not doing anything to cause any ripples in the society as far as, oh boy, that was a little bit testy there. No. Respectful uniforms. And I think the girls' uniforms are very, very respectful, be it volleyball or basketball. But to say, well, now, our girls are going to play, but they're going to play under our rules of our faith. No, you just won't play. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yes, you know, every day it's something new that is attacking and breaking down the society of America.
Yep.
And you say to yourself, the people that care, that know better, so many people that might care don't know better. You know how if you get picked up for speeding in the dark and the policeman says, well, there's no ignorance, there's no excuse. Ignorance is no excuse for any of them. We're slipping, man.
Well, yeah, but let's address the problem. Let's address the problem. Why are we slipping? Why are we sitting back and saying, oh, okay, we'll let you rewrite the rules for your little group. And then somebody else comes in and says, well, we want to rewrite the rules for our little group. And then pretty soon you've got complete chaos, and you don't have a team, you don't have uniforms, you don't have anything that represents that particular sport and or school. This is chaos. And I, for one, say no. If you have a respectful uniform to wear for that respective school, you wear it, and those that don't want to wear it, shut up and sit in the grandstand and cheer them on.
E pluribus unum. We are supposed to be, even though we're all of different nationalities, we are Americans, and we follow the uniform rules. We follow the law.
Can you imagine, Randy, honestly, and this is fair, assume this, that all of a sudden all the Christians in this country, your kids, my kids, everybody's kids, all decided that, well, wait a minute, we're all going to wear a uniform with a big cross on the front of it. We're not going to play unless we wear a cross on the front of our uniform. And all the schools, all the administrators are going to say, no, you can't play. That would be it. End of story. Why are we catering to the Islam and Muslim faith?
Well, because they're squealing and we're greasing the squeaky wheel. You know, the lady down in Kentucky, she stood up and stood for what was right. And what trumps everything is God's law. God's law. That's where the Constitution came from, the Bill of Rights. Okay. Well, Gavin Newsom used to be the mayor of San Francisco, was marrying gay couples way back when he didn't even have the right to do so. He never went to prison. He never went to jail. But this poor Christian went to jail.
Yep. It's totally off the rails. Our society only leans to the left, and I'll take issue with that with anybody. But I absolutely am going to stand up in defense of our teams, our atmosphere, our American melting pot. If you don't want to join and be a part of our melting pot, sit on the sidelines and wave some pom-poms because you're not going to play.
Well, this is the thing. Every day, it's something new, and we talk and we care, and we talk to our congressmen and senators, and you say, well, what's getting done here?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We're doing everything we can do, and talking to our congressmen and senators isn't helping much, it doesn't seem.
I agree. Randy, always good to hear from you. Thank you for your call. God bless, man. Yeah, think about that. If all of the kids that were Christian families, they put a great big cross on the front of their uniform, all of them, regardless of the school, I wonder how far that would go before administrators and other civic leaders would complain and say, nope, no, you take that off. But why are we catering to the Muslims? Let's have the weather. This time I know we've got it, and it's brought to you by Nicole and the crew at Mad River Laser. Oh, my goodness, they've got the jerseys that you can wear to support your team and favorite player with their name and number, just $20. $20, oh, my goodness, and they can make signs to hold up during the football games, $10, and they've got a beautiful new gift shop over there. Oh, you got to get in and check it out at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Wonderful, wonderful people waiting to serve you at Mad River Laser. Here now is the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we finally hit midweek. Sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west by around 10 miles an hour. Expect a high of 85 for today, tonight low of 48. Tomorrow, sunny skies getting close to 90, still slightly breezy, pretty much the same for Friday. Saturday, looks like sunny and 90. Sunday, sunny and mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zebit the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and the weather brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser. I love this store, and the people are phenomenal at 502 East Street in Rupert. What are your thoughts? I mean, all of a sudden, this is getting out of hand. It's not just in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's going into the college ranks. It's going all across this country to where they, the Islamists, are making special demands. Well, we'll participate, but we have to have this, and we will have this, or we won't play. And schools are catering to them. Schools are catering to them. And if you saw these outfits that they are wearing for girls' sports, their heads completely covered and their faces stick out. They look like little bumblebees, and they've got leggings. They look like painted up leotards, and then a dress over the whole thing. I don't know how in the world they're going to wear those and play basketball. They're going to sweat to death. But anyhow, this is what's coming. This is what's coming, and we're just sitting back going, oh, okay, we're no longer a melting pot. We no longer have any rules or uniforms. We'll just abide by whatever you want. This is insane. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. While I'm waiting for you to respond to this, also I want to mention our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Service, the key word. Yeah, buddy, they've got all the batteries and free battery checks, too, so check your battery out. We're getting into the colder weather. It's going to start cooling off, and out in the morning you go go out there and turn the key and it goes, not going anywhere today. You check that battery today. I'll be right there, caller. Stand by. And also the best in brake service. The best in all your tires that you need for your driving. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's different, and they've got all the different tread designs. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Absolutely the best. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I would like to know if these people who are moving into our area and demanding all of these rights, have they signed a pledge to be loyal to our country and uphold the laws?
I don't know.
So, as far as I'm concerned, we really don't have any responsibility to give them just plain right out equal rights.
You know, Chris, let me ask you, let's get blunt about this. Really, really short.
I think I am.
I know you are, but let's get even more so. Do you want them here? Over and above the taking care of other families that have lived here for years, that are suffering, they're having a hard time trying to figure out where the money's going to come from to send their kids to school, buy new tennis shoes, buy new clothes, maybe take them out for an ice cream cone once in a while to show how much they love their family. Are you more inclined to help these people coming in as refugees that are not part of the melting pot, not part of our culture, and we certainly do not have a vetting process to really let us know how safe we are? Are you in favor of it?
No. What happens to somebody who accidentally finds themselves in the Muslim countries and maybe they're lost and or something has happened and they're there for no fault of their own? How welcoming and caring is their society? Yeah,
you bring up a really good point. It would be really interesting, and you know what the answer is before I even pursue it, to have somebody go over to the Middle East and maybe get on a sports team and say, well, I'm not going to wear your uniform. I'm going to demand that I wear the other. How far do you think that's going to get a bucket of water with a hole in it?
Yeah, or if we're even going to get equal rights.
Yeah.
Or a fair trial.
You know, I just do not understand why our government and why our American Constitution and our philosophy is being pushed down into the dirt and ground in. We've got things we stand for, but we're not standing up for them anymore.
Well, we made, and I guess we all have to say that we made the decision several years ago to bring somebody in as president, and I don't know who's listening, and I really don't care. But did we vet him?
We
really know what we got.
No, and we're finding out more all the time. We actually found out more about him in his own autobiography that he wrote about his relationship with his mother and his father. We found out more from him giving us information than anybody had ever vetted.
Well, and actually, all of us should have read that book. But I will say this out loud on the radio. I do not respect him, and I don't like him. So I know as much about him as I want to know.
Well, you and I share the same thoughts, but, going back to a country and a philosophy, I should say a philosophy, of the Middle East, and their beliefs, and their religion, and their ideology, all mingled together, and bringing it over here to cause more of a divisive attitude in this country. No, I say absolutely not.
Yeah, and recently when he had one of his little trips that were kind of, we didn't know about it until he was over there, he didn't even show pride for his own family by going and visiting some uncle that was still alive.
Yeah.
So he's a chameleon. And I think that when America wakes up to what has happened to us in maybe 6 years, I hope it doesn't take that long, we better get stainless steel backbones.
I am very concerned, and I'm not trying to sound 100% negative this morning on this, but when we're starting to bend the rules, and we're starting to change the rules, and we're starting to capitulate to all these other groups, oh, please, we'll change, just don't get mad at us, that's the downfall of America.
We will not recognize America.
Amen.
And the sad thing is that people in Twin Falls, Idaho, now whoever would believe that southern Idaho would kind of quake in fear by some of the unknowns that happen to be shopping in the same stores with us and making us a bit nervous.
I'm just so afraid of what's happening not only here but in this entire country with a naive attitude that's perpetrated by this administration. Chris, I got to run. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Caller, I'm going to give you exactly 1 minute. That's all I've got left. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, I didn't get very long. I just was going to agree with kind of what you've been saying this morning and say I think that the melting pot is actually working, but it's going the wrong direction. You know, it's kind of like putting the frog in the pot.
Yep.
And slowly you just turn it up. Pretty quick the frog's just comfortable, and then it's too late for the frog.
Absolutely. Too late for the frog, and substitute the word frog and put the United States in there. Too late for the United States. God bless you, sir.
I think this thing, and it's going by every day, getting a little harder for, all of us that are working out there, trying to make ends meet.
I agree.
Take care of our families.
I agree.
But they'll give these guys thousands and thousands of dollars, free housing, food stamps, everything else. And I'm working my fingers to the bone. I'm a fat kid, I'm not going to lie. But you know what? Everything I got, I paid for myself.
Amen. Got to run to the news, my dear friend. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Thanks. Got to run to the news next, and you're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them today at 312-0957. We'll be back in about 6 minutes. Don't you go away. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch on a Wednesday, September the 9th. I think I said earlier this morning, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I said the 8th, and I'm, like I said, a day late because of a shorter work week with Monday being off on Labor Day. Morning, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South of Night in Rupert. Everything, and I mean everything, for the farm, the home, and the ranch, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Let me tell you, they've got, along with all the great garbage collection, they've got the Go Minis portable storage units for moving across town or across the state or anywhere. I'll tell you what, they are really, really handy. Check it out today by giving them a call at Western Waste Services, 734-6969. And get on that route service to get rid of your garbage. Always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, serving you. Hey, by the way, Ted's Diesel Electric has moved to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. Doug Martin and his staff, I'll tell you what, they're all over there rebuilding starters, alternators, and generators. All you have to do is stop in and see them today. Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Ted's Diesel Electric has moved to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. You stop in and say hello to them today. Hey, by the way, don't forget tomorrow on Thursday's program, our remote broadcast from Ramsey's, we're going to have our third Zeb's High School football game of the week, brought to you by Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and you might be the lucky winner of a Grand Slam breakfast if you pick the winning team and closest to the final score, and we'll have more about that tomorrow. Don't forget, great food, nice people. people at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And real quick, before I get my guest on the phone, I want to remind you something very special coming up this weekend. On Saturday, that's the Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch 27th Annual Production Sale. It's going to be at the ranch, 1994 South, 100 east of Oakley. Sale time 11. At 10 o'clock, they're going to have a preview, and the tradition of great horses continues at Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch Production Sale. For more information, get a hold of Jerry Zollinger, 670-3833. Great big horse sale coming up on this Saturday up in Oakley. Well, good morning to a dear, dear friend, and that's Mr. Dave Bego. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
Well,
I know you're a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah, I tell you what, more cases than not, that's exactly how I operate. And I'm sure that you, Mr. Entrepreneur, are always on time, and everything bodes well for you, your business, and everything else. And, oh, by the way, before we get started this morning, what about the Indianapolis Colts? Who do they play this weekend?
Oh, you know, Zeb, I've been traveling, and I'm so tired right now, I don't even remember who they play this weekend.
Well, I can tell you who Green Bay plays, and it's going to be a tough rematch of last year. They play Seattle. That's all you.
That'll be a tough game.
That's all you.
About that.
Long distance, 1,600 miles, and I say they play Seattle, and Dave goes, okay. Oh, hey, listen, I've got to ask you something, and this is we had this topic discussed on the first hour of our program this morning. Dave, there seems to be a capitulation. There seems to be a caving in. There seems to be a giving away of our traditions and our values in high schools and colleges for the Muslims. And there is no longer a uniform. They can wear what they deem is proper, and they're changing the rules in our society to fit themselves. What are your thoughts about how we're capitulating to them, but the reverse would never happen?
Well, you know, Zeb, it's all about this political correctness in this country that this administration puts out, and also part of their ultimate plan for a one-world government and bringing this country down. And, you know, I'm just amazed as I look around at all that's going on, and people in this country aren't waking up to it. And it's not just the Muslim thing, you know. You look at the National Labor Relations Board, they are just churning out new regulations and rulings almost day by day that favor unionizing people across the country, force unionizing them as rapidly as possible. And it's all basically the same as executive order. Obama's telling them what to do, and they're doing it to give the unions the edge. And, you know, and bring down this country. It's all about control. And it's not happening just there. It's with Islam, it's with the border, it's with the economy, you name it. And it just seems like America across the board is just giving in.
Let me ask you, you mentioned the unions, etc. Who on the Democratic side would really shine up to the unions more? Would it be Hillary Clinton? Would it be possibly Joe Biden? Or would it be somebody else that is running? Who would be the biggest thorn in our side to shine up to the unions and really push them to the forefront after Obama leaves?
Probably Bernie Sanders would be. You know, Hillary would be after that. I don't know about Biden. I think Biden, the problem with Biden is you know, he's come across at times and hasn't agreed with the programs and principles of the Obama administration, but he hasn't shown any backbone to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to go along with that. And that's the concern about him. But Bernie Sanders, I mean, the unions would love him.
You know, I watched the other day when Joe Biden was speaking, and I think he had the AFL-CIO leader there. I can't for the life of me think of his name all of a sudden. And up on the stage with him. Does that give an indicator that he's going to run?
It could be. I mean, the unions, you know, they're behind the Democratic Party, and they're going to push whoever they can to get into office. And another one thing I will say about him being up on stage with the AFL-CIO, they view him as somebody they can manipulate. And that's goes back to what I said about him not standing up to some of the Obama policies he didn't agree with. And so he may be a favorite of theirs, and we'll have to wait and see on this thing.
You know, I'm sure that you saw the Pepto-Bismol interview with Hillary yesterday, where she teary-eyed looked at the camera and said, "I'm sorry." Oh, didn't that just tweak your heartstrings, David?
Now, Zeb, you know better than that. No, she's just playing the game, and I think I told you this before. I think Hillary's done, and I think she's going to implode here pretty soon. And it's the other people coming forward, Sanders and Biden and some of those that are going to be the ones that lead the charge. It may be somebody else too before this is over with. I mean, we still got a long time to go.
You know we do, but now let's just talk a little bit about this deal with Hillary. They wanted to, according to her campaign manager, they wanted to humanize her more. They wanted to give a warmer side. Well, she has lied. She has covered up on the servers and the different material used and the classified information, and now she's sorry because she's fading so fast in the polls. I mean, the American public must really be stupid if they buy into this "I'm sorry" by Hillary.
The problem is, Zeb, and you probably get tired of hearing me saying this, but the American public is so disengaged, and so many of them are naive and so easily, intimidated and misled and brainwashed. It's just unbelievable. And I mean, I don't know if you watched Waters' World the other night, and he's talking to some of these people on the streets in New York and Miami and that, and talking to them about some of these people and what they're doing. And they didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't get it at all. And that's what's really concerning about America. We don't have people that are engaged. We have people that are just out there in la-la land.
I agree. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, for Dave Bego. Go ahead.
Hillary is sorry. She's sorry she got caught.
No, okay, well, I guess
he's exactly right.
I guess that's a good enough response. Yes, she is sorry she got caught. But now, Dave, let's pursue that a little bit further. Will the liberal left in the media and will the government agencies, the State Department and everything, will they hang her out to dry, or will they cover it up and just let everything just gloss over? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they'll just kind of fade away and let her fade away, to be honest with you, especially if somebody steps up that they feel like they can really support. And it looks like the Democratic Party is going to really support. And, I just, you look at Hillary, and maybe I've made this comment to you before, but I, as a businessman that have quite a few employees in that, I wouldn't hire her in my organization. Why would you hire somebody that you don't feel like you can trust or that they will do the job? I mean, she got thrown out of her first job after she came out of college.
Right. I want to ask you something about Donald Trump. There is growing concern by some of the staunch old guard in the Republican Party that Donald Trump is going to have enough of the faster horses to run all the way to the finish line and possibly get the nomination. And they are doing everything they can, along with the help and the aiding and abetting by the media, to downplay and diminish Donald Trump and really demean him. Do you agree that this is happening, or am I looking at something that maybe is pie in the sky?
I think there's definitely people out there that are, the Republican Party, and a lot of people will tell you that they had their eyes set on Jeb Bush, and that's who they really want in there, and that's why they brought in all these candidates to kind of water it down and give him the edge over everything. And that, people are going to, in the Republican National Committee, are going to push for that, and they're going to do everything they can to minimize Donald Trump. Now, the question is, can they or not? I don't know if they have the backbone to stand up and do the right thing like they should, just like our legislators haven't with Obama since we've had the majority in Congress. It doesn't make sense that all they're worried about is getting reelected and not offending anybody.
Why Bush? Why Jeb Bush? I know that most of the people I've talked to around the country that I talk to on a daily basis, as far back east as New York and Washington, why Jeb Bush? I don't think he stands a snowball's chance in the oven of beating anybody on the left, and is that why the media is really pushing for him?
Well, it could be, and like I say, there's a lot of people on the Republican side that are pushing for him too. I think that unfortunately, he has to live with the Bush name here, and they're going to go after that and attack it. So it's going to be tough for him to win. I personally think we need somebody that's not been in politics, the same old political games that have been played over year after year. We need people that are coming in from the private sector that know how to run a company, know how to run business, understand how the free markets work, and turn this country around. And you're looking at three people there. You're looking at Trump, Furio, and Ben.
Absolutely. Talking about Donald Trump again, last night he was interviewed on television, and he was very blunt. And I will say this, my opinion is that he's tried to take a piece of sandpaper and round off and kind of blunt some of the rough edges. But boy, I like the way he speaks out. He said that Black Lives Matter supporters are unfit to run for office. And he was talking about Democrats that are supporting Black Lives Matter. What were your thoughts when you heard what he had said last night?
I'm actually glad you brought that up because, I'm doing more investigating on this Black Lives Matter. I actually pointed out in my blog back during the Ferguson problems in St. Louis that Black Lives Matter were actually, being pushed by the SEIU, the union I fought and beat. And I think, and I saw another article on them recently where they were protesting actually Bush out in Las Vegas, and at the head of the Black Lives Matters, their rally out in front of the Bush speaking podium was an SEIU guy. And so Trump's exactly right. These people aren't fit, and we need to expose them. And what bothers me too, now that you brought that up, is watching Fox over the past week in two different episodes on the Kelly File, and I'm trying to remember who the other one I saw, but they talked about Black Lives Matters, and they said, yeah, there's people behind the scenes that are pushing this and supporting this, groups, and but they wouldn't come out and say who it was, and I know they know it's the people like the SEIU.
Yeah, why?
They're afraid of it because they don't want the SEIU to go after their advertisers.
Ah, okay. So basically, Fox, along with all the other networks, is being intimidated right now by the liberal left, and you think that's had quite an influence.
Yeah, I really do, and we need people to stand up and do the right thing, regardless if they're going to lose some money and that. I mean, it's kind of like us when we fought the SEIU. It cost us a lot of money to do that, and a lot of time and effort. But, at the end of the day, it was the right thing, and we need people like Fox and our Republican Party and that to stand up and do the right thing to do and expose these people for what they're really doing to this country.
Absolutely. Dave, you played sports, I've played sports, and I saw something on television the other night that absolutely sickened me, and it was the Texas high school football game where two defensive players, one absolutely nailed an official in the back, knocking him down, and the other one speared him with his helmet. What in the world is going on with not only high school sports, but collegiate sports? This kind of activity never even would have been thought of back in my day of playing.
Zev, I know, and this again, it goes back to the whole thing that's going on in this country. Political correctness. We got to let people do what they want to do, and if they don't like the call from the referees, we go do what we want to do. And you see it so many things that are going on in business and high school and on all these groups. Look at this gal that was put in prison because she wouldn't process a gay marriage, request. And we got to stand up again. We got to go back to our fundamentals and our basics and do the right things. And bring this country back. Donald Trump's exactly right. We got to make this country great again.
Well, I threw a scenario out first hour, and I'll throw it at you and see if you agree or disagree. Here we're seeing Muslims say, well, no, my daughter's not going to play on your basketball or volleyball team unless we design uniforms that are copacetic with our beliefs, and so they're changing our values and our uniforms. Conversely, Dave, I dare say that if all of a sudden all of the Christian ball players in the country put a red cross on their uniform, I'll bet you they wouldn't even make it out onto the floor, and somebody would stop them. Why are we being so amenable to the other side and letting them take over?
Zeb, it comes back to what happened to the toughness that the American people had.
That's right.
The mental and the physical toughness, and they do that because either somehow they fundamentally agree with them, which I don't think is the case most of the time. But the other side of it is they don't want to be put in the limelight. They don't want to be criticized. They don't want to have people pressure them and try to intimidate them. It's easier just to go along and get along. And, that's what you think about, that's what Obama is doing with us in the world as far as our military might. We're just going along to get along, which at the end of the day is going to destroy you, because people will no longer fear that if they come after you and try to destroy you, you won't do anything about it.
Absolutely. I want to go back and just get your final thoughts on those two high school football players. I said they both should be tried for assault and battery on that official, and even though they are claiming now that today that an assistant coach told them to do it, they're 17 years of age, they know right from wrong. What should happen in that case to make things at least a little better for the community and for the other families?
Well, absolutely. It ought to be investigated and find out what happened, and they ought to be penalized for what they did was wrong. And you have to have respect. Yeah, there's many times that when I played college basketball, I didn't agree with the calls that the referees made, but I didn't go over and punch them in the nose. I just put my game face on and went back and played the game.
Yep, absolutely.
And, but I seen this. I saw it the other night. I don't know if you saw it on a program where they were showing, it was ESPN, they were showing pro and college basketball and baseball players weren't happy with the umpires' calls and that, and they started going up and yelling in their face and throwing things, and I'm going, what happened to respect in our society?
Yeah, I totally agree. There always have been the old rhubarbs on the field and the all on the baseball diamond getting in the umpire's face and everything, but all of a sudden that right arm comes out and points to the dugout, and that was the end of the story. They're thrown out of the game, and I wish that there was more of that throwing out of the game atmosphere. Maybe they'd learn that they've got a tightrope to walk, and they better not vary from it.
Well, that's right. We're a nation of laws, whether it's our federal government or it's, sports, college sports, whatever it is. We're laws and rules, and we got to follow the laws and rules. And they make us better people. Too many people, though, look at it and say, no, it's easier for me just to say, I'm not going to do it. You guys do what I want you to do.
Yeah. Dave Bego, very, very good conversation this morning. Thank you so much back in Indianapolis, Indiana. And best of luck to you on your Colts this year. Best of luck to me on the Packers, and we'll see who's going to end up the better team. But we'll talk to you next week on Wednesday. Have a great, great week. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Zeb. You too. Nice talking.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Dave Bego, great guy. I really appreciate him taking the time to come on our program with his political insight. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget to Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward and his family and his staff serving you. They are there when you need them, and they provide flexible hours to be there and talk to you and help you. They can travel to rural towns and churches to help you with the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. And as I say every day, always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please remember this number, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, serving you. Also, a real quick reminder about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Oh, my. Located on Highway 24 between Rupert and wherever. I'll tell you what, everybody goes there. Everybody knows them. That's right. They know that they can provide the best in life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits, and they are very accessible and devoted to serving you. Call for questions on your being covered. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Oh, and by the way, if you're on that highway, and you are, don't forget about Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. Now, they've still got some great rebates on Suzuki 4x4s. It's really nice outside, and the leaves are turning colors, and you better get up in the hills and enjoy. I'll tell you what, they've got all the 4x4s right there, and as I said, great rebates on Suzuki. That's what I've got. You better believe it. And all the service, all the accessories, everything right there for you, and possibly some gift giving for someone else at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. Yep, where the fun is sold. Oh, my. Don't forget, tomorrow morning we're going to be over at Ramsey Heating and Electric for that remote broadcast celebrating and commemorating Patriots Day and Hats Off to Farmers campaign. And that's going to be all 3 hours tomorrow morning, and we urge you to get there early when we open the doors at 7:30 in the morning. Free donuts and milk and coffee. And all we're asking for is a donation back into the Zebeth Ranch Christmas Fund to help needy families. We got a whole bunch of people that we want to try to help this next Christmas season, which is right around the corner. So come on down to Ramsey's tomorrow and help us out if you would, please. Let's go to the phone line right now and say a good morning to a gentleman that was scheduled last week, and then I was gone for that day. And this is Charlie Drevna from the American Energy Alliance. Good morning, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing well, Zeb. Glad to have you back on the air.
Well, believe me, it's great for me to be back on the air and talking to someone with the knowledge that you have. Charlie, you have been in the energy business, I assume, for most of your adult life, and you've seen the pros, you've seen the cons, you've seen the lesses, you've seen the majors. What's going on with energy right now in the last 499 days of this administration? How concerned are you?
Zeb, I mean, when you look at all the last hurrah, so to speak, for this administration, which should frighten every American, we're just sitting here holding, gripping onto our chairs and putting our seatbelts on because, left to their own volition, this administration is going to take this energy renaissance we have and just flush it away if they had their druthers.
No,
you look at all the things they're proposing and have to go. You've got the climate change thing. You've got the going out to Paris in a couple of months and hobnobbing with their fellow wizards from the EU and around the world. You've got this clean power plant, which is really a misnomer. It's the shut the coal plant down bill. It's not a clean power plant bill or regulation. And if anyone who is either in the fossil fuel industry or providing energy to the American public, we're all in the crosshairs next. This is just the scheme that he came to power in back in 2009, and he's been relentless ever since.
Charlie, for the consumers and my audience and people that are listening on my internet service all over the United States and for that matter the world, are you saying and intimating that maybe we ain't seen nothing yet as far as high prices and escalating prices and a shortage on energy itself? Is that basically what this man wants to do?
Yeah, I think he wants to do that, but he doesn't want to do it in the next 16, 17 months, whatever the heck's left in his administration. He's going to leave that for the future presidents and future generations to clean up the mess. So what he's proposing, and you see that most of this stuff won't take ultimate effect until he's long gone from office. But in the meantime, the regulations are on the books, so companies whether you're a utility company, a refining company, people producing oil and natural gas through hydraulic fracturing, you've got to start today to make those capital commitments to comply with these regulations, even though, like I say, he and his gang of merry men and women will be long gone from office, we hope.
What about the killing, and I'll use that word killing, of the coal industry and our electrical grids, and how are we going to maintain not only what we have now, but our needs for the future when coal is gone, and what are we going to supply it with? Wind and solar, very, very inept as far as trying to take care of our needs.
Well, that's exactly right, Seb. If you look at the growing energy demand for the nation and the globe, for that matter, and what is it now? Globally, the World Health Organization has said one in 7 human beings on this planet do not have any. That's zero access to electricity. And there's probably 2 or 3 out of that 7 who only have intermittent access. And when someone tells me intermittent access, I automatically think of wind and solar. But there's everybody talks, not everybody, I shouldn't use those words because those of us in this business, we like to be rational. But people talk about the social cost of carbon. I wish somebody would explain to me what the heck they mean by that, because I can give you what the social cost of non-carbon is, and it's those aforementioned people living around the world without access to clean water and electricity, that they're still, burning charcoal and wood and animal waste in their homes for basic heating and cooking needs. And again, the same old World Health Organization said that 4 million people died in 2013 from indoor air pollution caused by their own use of those fuels. Is this what this administration wants us to go to? It's crazy.
Well, I've said for a long time on my program, Charlie, and I'm not trying to be facetious when I say that some of these standards that this administration and the liberal left wants to impose, they could put us back like in the caveman days of burning buffalo dung and going out and trying to find animals to spear for our food. Things are really getting regressive in this country and not meeting the 21st century standards of letting America lead the world.
Exactly. We should be the leader of the world when it comes to technology innovation. Look what's happened in our own industries here with the price of oil has absolutely plummeted from above $100 a barrel just a year or so ago down to less than $45 a barrel today. And everyone's been saying, oh, well, we're not going to be producing as much, we can't. But through innovation and good old American ingenuity, we've been able to go back and refract some of those wells at a fraction of the cost that it took to produce and to begin with. So the technology is constantly advancing. Like I said, the American ingenuity and entrepreneurship is constantly moving forward. But there's so many impediments thrown in our way by this administration, who A, did not foresee this, B, it wasn't part of their calculus, and C, they don't know how to act because this is not what they want.
Charlie, I am really not a fan, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. I've got broad shoulders, I can take it. But I'm not a fan and never have been of ethanol. I'm not a big fan of it being increased and used in the gasoline industry, and I'm not a big fan as to what it's done with some of the engines, etc., whether it's ATVs, lawnmowers, etc. What's going on with ethanol, and what are they trying to increase or decrease with the renewable fuel standards?
Well, they're trying to. You remember the renewable fuel standard that was passed at a time where the nation and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people in the nation and those who would have us get off oil much more quickly believed that we were running out of oil and natural gas. And so we had to have they put this cockamamie renewable fuel standard in that said as far as the transportation fuels go in the country, gasoline and diesel, we had to put more and more ethanol in gasoline and biodiesel in our diesel supply, because that was a policy that was based upon American energy scarcity. Well, you know, I think it was Milton Friedman, the great human being, who said, well, you know, you got to be careful. You know, don't be judging policies and programs by their intentions. You have to judge them on their results. Well, if we judged on the intention, would say this ethanol over everything. But the bottom line is that we've been able to, you know, increase energy production, increase transportation fuels in this country, where that renewable fuel standard that was passed back in 2007, it's an anachronism. It's not needed. Now, is ethanol, you know, you say you don't want to put any ethanol in. You know, ethanol to a certain point in gasoline is just fine. It's a good octane enhancer, and it's a good blend stock. But when you start getting these massive mandates that say you're going to increase this thing way over 10%, and even 10% I think is far too much, but that's the way the system is designed right now. And you're going to put, you know, 15% in, and then we have to put service stations in to accommodate E85, which is, you know, for the flex fuel vehicles and all that. A couple of things. The American consumer doesn't want it. Two, we don't have enough ethanol to do that, because, well, we always have enough ethanol, but you want to put more corn and more food in your fuel tank,
right?
Because you look at what Hillary Clinton came out with back at the end of May. That, you know, she was saying we got to enhance the renewable fuel standard, we got to increase E15 and increase E85. Well, that's not going to work. And what will happen is that she's basing her program, or her you know, after, you know, marching through Iowa and worshiping at the altar of ethanol, as most presidential candidates have to do these days, but they her program would be based upon what they're doing in California. And if you have a moment, are you really allow me to describe what's going on in California?
I was just going to ask you if you would, because it's a mess. I rodeo a lot in California, and it's absolutely turned upside down, and the people are very upset.
Yeah. So what they've done is they said, okay, we're not going to do, well, they're still trying to do a carbon cap and trade or maybe a carbon tax. But what they've thrown in is something called the low carbon fuel standard. Well, if somebody can define to me what that means, you know, I'd be more than happy to listen to them. But so essentially what it is you can't, in California, you really can't use U.S. grown corn-based ethanol in California because it doesn't meet their low carbon fuel standard. When you run through the whole life cycle of planting the corn and fertilizing and transporting and all that, okay, so actually the carbon footprint of corn ethanol is actually higher than plain old conventional gasoline by itself. So the smart people in California said, we've got a way around it. We're going to use sugarcane-based ethanol and import it from Brazil. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock more rainforest down and plant more sugarcane, make ethanol, put it in an ocean-going vessel, and ship it up to California. In the meantime, the corn ethanol that is produced in the Midwest in the United States is going to be put on barges, sent down to Mississippi, put on ocean-going vessels, and sent to Brazil. Now, there's a whole heck of a lot of sense, don't you think?
Oh, my goodness sakes. I had no idea it was that much of a monopoly board as far as what's going on. But really, what is this hatred against oil? Why is there so much hatred against a product if left alone and we use it, not abuse it? It can still be, for the next 500 to 1,000 years, an energy source right here in this country. I don't understand the hatred for oil.
It's mind-boggling. Rather than having this visceral animosity that some of these folks have against the oil and gas industry and the coal industry, for that matter, they should be applauding and promoting and looking what how fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, have brought this country to where it is, has the ability to bring our allies to greater prosperity, has the ability to get us out of this economic malaise we find ourselves in. But again, all these policies that back in the day were based on energy scarcity, and those folks who, since the early 70s, who were opposed to increased fossil fuel use, have used that as the canard to say, look, we need to get off of oil and all the other things, and we need to stop being subservient to foreign governments for our energy supplies. Now that I can agree with. We've done a doggone good job of just that. Whereas right now we're going to be in one of these days a net energy exporter, not an importer. And like I said, I think I've told you in the past, our allies, if we have any left, like Ukraine, they're asking for oil and natural gas. I didn't see anybody over there asking for solar panels or windmills. Or ethanol, for that matter.
Charlie, with your knowledge and your abilities, why aren't there more Charlie Drevnas involved in politics? Why aren't there more of you involved in administrations like energy czars, etc.? Because I dare say, and I think you'll agree with me on this, most politicians don't have the knowledge on various subjects to stand up and vote or veto a bill, and here we are in a mess right now. They just don't know what they're talking about, i.e. Obamacare. They voted for it and then they read it later.
Well, Zeb, it's been 7 years and I haven't gotten a call from the president to be part of his administration. I don't think it's going to happen within the last 14 to 15 months. So I'm not really sitting by the phone waiting for that call. There are, I'll defend some of the folks that I know in government. There are good people there. They understand this. Once you're getting overridden by policy people rather than the people who go to work day in and day out and understand the basic economics and the basic facts of whether it's energy or health care or treaties with Iran or whatever, you get beaten down, and I know a lot of folks in the government who are just still themselves beaten down right now.
Is it policy or is it ideology? Which one is really trumping the other?
Oh, it's ideology because it's fine to have an ideology. I think we all have an ideology. The problem comes into play when you allow that ideology to interfere with reality. And that's where the system just absolutely falls apart. You can't. Look, I've been called a lot of things, but recently, in the past 5-6 years, I am one of the lead deniers. I don't deny that the climate has changed. I would opine, Zeb, that the climate has been changing since the good Lord rested on the seventh day.
Yep.
The question is, what can we do about it? What can one individual state like California do about it? Is carbon dioxide a pollutant? Is it just whatever? However, this isn't Charlie Drevna saying this. This is probably the richest man in the world who is by no means, a follower of Fox News or any other conservative station. Bill Gates, who said the cost of controlling CO2 would be beyond, and having it anywhere effective, in his words, I quote, would be beyond astronomical.
Absolutely.
That sums it up.
And it's...
And again, that's not from a conservative. That's from a nice guy, a smart man, and a great guy, Bill Gates.
But we don't have people in office that are not tied to the environmental movement. And I think that's the big problem right now today. The liberal left has ties on everything, including the energy industry. And quite frankly, I just don't have a very optimistic viewpoint that even with a change of presidents, even if we do get someone in from the Republican Party and conservative, I wonder how much things will change.
Well, if what is passed is prologue, and as much as I still admire and love President Bush 43, and I do, he really started this thing when he said we're addicted to oil, and that just let the floodgates open for the antis to come in, and Zev, we have companies in our own industries here who are trying to paint themselves either as green or as perhaps accommodating or something, saying, yeah, well, maybe we could do something on limiting carbon, maybe we could put a carbon tax on, and it's frustrating because it's that proverbial camel's nose under the tent. When was the last time you saw a tax that wasn't increased over the years?
Absolutely. The last question, kind of a 1984 question, Charlie, and then I'm almost out of time. I got a minute left. Do you foresee in your position with American Energy Alliance that we may be in the future issued energy and carbon cards and taxed on the usage on a per-day basis?
I hope I'm not around to see that, but I could foresee something like, you've got certain, you're going to be taxed by how many miles you drive, or you're going to be, we already have crazy taxes on the kind of car you drive. If you drive one they don't think is politically correct, you get taxed. If extra taxes. If you drive one that they think is politically correct, you get a tax refund. And it far transcends, as you said before, Zeb. I know you got it wrong, but it far transcends energy. They tell us what kind of energy to use, what kind of car to drive, where we're going to get our electricity from, what kind of food we're supposed to eat, what kind of health care we're going to have. I mean, George Orwell was a piker compared to these guys.
Absolutely. Charlie, I really appreciate your patience with me. Last week I wasn't on the air and you were standing by. And I thank you so much for coming back this morning, and I'll have you back in the near future. God's blessings to you, and have a great fall. And thank you for being on the program.
You got it. You take care, and thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Charlie Drevna with the American Energy Alliance. And this man is a straight shooter. I've seen him on television, watched him and listened to him, knows all about energy or the lack of, and I really appreciate him being on the program here this morning. Holy smokes, I've got to get a weather forecast in here. Old Wheels is sitting over there at the station going, hey, what about the weather? All right, it's brought to you by Duck Uglies. 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. Oh my, if you're looking for a great place to take the family for a delicious meal and along with that entertainment, I know the place. Duck Uglies. Great menu choices, and they've got specials and of course great entertainment. I just love going in there and listening. I'll keep bragging on old Ned Carter. I mean, he plays songs from way back in the 60s. Enjoy. Always a lot of fun at Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. And right now here is the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we finally hit midweek. Sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west by around 10 miles an hour. Expect a high of 85 for today, tonight low 48 tomorrow. Sunny skies getting close to 90, still slightly breezy, pretty much the same for Friday. Saturday looks like sunny and 90. Sunday, sunny and mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and brought to you by Duck Uglies, 163 West Highway 30 in Burley. Great place for family dining and great entertainment. Duck Uglies. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you, and we'll talk about any subject you want to talk about for the remainder of this half hour this morning. Give us a jingle on the landline, and we'll talk about it. We, so far this morning, to kind of bring you up to speed, have talked a little bit about the dragging to death of that little pony over in Rupert. Absolutely ridiculous. And as I stated earlier this morning, and I'm going to mention it again right now, that this program will do anything to help and aid and abet the capture of those people, regardless of one person or how many there were, and I urge you, if you have any information about this heinous crime of dragging that little pony to death, literally, behind that vehicle, call 434-2320 or Crime Stoppers at 436-5353. And if you'd like to contribute to a GoFundMe account called Justice for Patches, they're taking donations, and you can call Daniela at 650-8691. Can't imagine how dumb this person was, or persons were, that committed this crime. And I hope they're arrested, and I hope the book is thrown at them for their crime. Ridiculous. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Once again, another reminder that great big huge Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch sale is going to be this coming Saturday. And that's Saturday, September 12th, this weekend at 1994 South, 100 East of Oakley. And they're going to have some of the finest colts and fillies on sale up there. You better check it out, because at Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch, the tradition of great horses continues. Keith Munn's going to be the auctioneer, and they're going to have the preview at 10 o'clock, sale time starting at 11. And for more information, you can call Jerry at 670-3833. Once again, 670-3833. And I believe you can go online and get your sale catalog information at ZollingerQuarterHorseRanch.com, okay? All of that for the big sale coming up on this weekend, Saturday, up in Oakley, Zollinger Quarter Horse Ranch sale. Don't you miss it. Let's see, what else have I got to do here? Oh, and I've got just a moment, and I want to remind you, too, about the Best in Guns as I wait for your phone calls. And that's from Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. They have been in that same neck of the woods in Old Town, historic Twin Falls, since way back 1936. And believe me, they've got the best of Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester. And all the ammunition, all the accessories, plus they've got top-notch personnel to answer all of your questions. And when I talk about accessories, I'm talking reloading and gun cleaning kits, I'm talking knives and slings and holsters, all kinds of items for your gift giving, too, at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Now it's your turn. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Like to hear what your thoughts are this morning as we get ready to go to ABC News, CBS News, pardon me, I said the wrong network. And coming up next hour, I want to remind you that about 7 or 8 months ago, we had Andy Johnson from Wyoming on our program, and he was talking about how the EPA was fining him as much as, what was it, $75,000 a day or something ridiculous figure for when he dredged out a little farm pond for the use of his family and the livestock. Well, we're going to have attorney Jonathan Wood from the Pacific Legal Foundation on the program this next hour, and he's going to tell us what is the status of that account with Andy Johnson. And then at 10:30, I did a little shuffling around this week because I always appreciate having him on the air. We're going to have my dear friend Doug Johnson on at 10:30 this morning to talk about Carly Fiorina and maybe some holes they found in the screen door regarding some of the stances she's taken on various issues. That's coming up with old Doug at 10:30 this morning. And once again, your calls are always appreciated. We are going to be, one more time, over at Ramsey's tomorrow morning, starting right bright and early at 7:30. Come on by, have some free donuts and milk and hot coffee. And we are asking for a Goodwill donation to go to the Zeb at the Ranch Christmas Fund for needy families. We're going to try to put all that together for Christmas season, so help us out. And we'll be broadcasting from Ramsey's all 3 hours tomorrow in commemoration of Patriots Day, and hats off to farmers. We're going to take a little break, and I'll be back in about 6 minutes. Oh, you're listening to Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening today. Call 312-0957. You Betcha Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. And call them, get on the route service at 734-6969, along with our friends at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch. Oh, and by the way, Ted's Diesel Electric has moved. I've been telling you all about that, to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. And, of course, Doug rebuilding your starters, alternators, generators, everything from lawn mowers to locomotives, and he sells brand new, too. Ted's Diesel Electric moved to 635 21st Street in Heyburn. By the way, let's take a look at the menu choices for the Chadwick Sports Grill today. And this being Wednesday, lasagna served with garlic toast and veggies and super salad. The Chadwick Sports Grill. Great menu choices, great specials, really, really nice people serving you at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and have lunch with them today. Let's go to the phone line right now, and we have with us an attorney for the Pacific Legal Foundation, and I'm really interested in visiting with him. He's been on my program before. Jonathan Wood, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, not too bad. Jonathan, I understand that you are involved with that case in Wyoming with Andy Johnson. And I had Andy on my program about a year ago after he was threatened by the EPA for digging a farm pond. And they were talking about fining him, what was it, $40,000 a day or something? Bring us up to speed as to what's going on with this case.
So in the year and a half since he got the compliance order, Andy Johnson and an expert who actually happens to be a former enforcement officer with the Corps has tried to explain to EPA that it's overstepped. So for those that don't recall, Andy Johnson constructed a stock pond on his private property by damming a small stream that crosses it. He has horses and cattle and a variety of farm animals, and he wanted to provide safe and reliable access to water for them. The Clean Water Act expressly exempts stock ponds. It says the federal government has no authority to regulate them. That's left to the states. And here, Andy Johnson did everything he had to do. He went to the state and got a permit and executed that permit and built the stock pond exactly as he was supposed to. But the fact that it had no authority didn't stop EPA from issuing an order accusing him of violating the Clean Water Act and threatening with $37,500 per day in fines. In the year and a half that he spent trying to explain to EPA that it has no jurisdiction here, that fine has already exceeded $16 million.
Oh, my goodness sakes. $16 million? Okay, but right there, I'd be looking for a basement window to jump out of at $16 million, for heaven's sakes. What is he doing? I mean, what's happening to this man and his family?
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine how terrifying that must be for an ordinary person. Andy Johnson is a normal guy, a small property owner who has a full-time job as a welder, 4 kids, and a wife to support. The thought that he might ever be subjected to a fine like this is terrifying and has given him and his family many sleepless nights. And frankly, that's what these kinds of threats are about. The government knows that if it can hang this over your head for a year or two, knowing that every month it's another approximately $1 million in fines, most people are going to have no choice but give in to the government, even if, like Andy Johnson, they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Jonathan, give in to the government. I don't know about you being a lawyer and making some kind of big bucks more so than I, but nobody can look at a faced $16 million in fines for building a stock pond. Nobody can do that except Donald Trump. I mean, this is ludicrous. How in the world did they ever expect him to pay?
Of course, that amount of fine is totally ludicrous, and they don't, frankly, expect him to ever pay that. The reason why those fines and those threats are so big is to coerce property owners into abandoning their projects or give EPA control over their property.
So basically, you're saying that these thugs, these punks, these no-good mafiosos with the EPA are just out there to diminish anybody's property rights values and say, okay, tough, you can't make the fine, so we're going to take over the property. Is that right?
I'm saying when they have an incredibly coercive tool, like threatening tens of millions of dollars in fines against ordinary people, that is an incredibly heavy weapon to wage against a normal person. And most anyone would have little choice but to give in those circumstances, because it takes a lot of courage to stand up to the government and take it to court and accept that in the year 2 or 3 that it takes to strike down what they're doing, those fines are going to continue to grow.
Yeah, but now I got to ask you this. What about the state of Wyoming? What about the state of Wyoming standing behind him or standing with him shoulder to shoulder when he, according to what he told me, and I've gone through some of my old notes, he told me that he went and got all the state permits necessary to make this legal. Why isn't the state of Wyoming standing up and sticking their nose in the face of the EPA with him?
He has got a great amount of support from the state of Wyoming and his local congressmen. He has had a flood of support from all kinds of people across the country who hear this story and can't believe that EPA would go after Andy Johnson. One of the biggest ironies of this case is that the stock pond that Andy Johnson built actually has a ton of positive environmental impacts. It created wetlands, riparian areas, habitat for fish and wildlife, and it actually cleans the water that passes through it.
So what is their beef? You got to help me, Jonathan. I don't understand. Is it just the 7-letter word, the control factor? Is it because they think he did something to hurt the environment? I mean, what is their beef?
I wish I had an answer for you. The best guess I can come up with is they don't like that he did this without getting permission from them first, which is shocking. Most people would assume that you can use your private property however you want, so long as you don't affect anybody, and that you don't have to go to bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. first.
Now, what about similar situations? I mean, supposing I go out in my backyard in my orchard right now, and I dig a little puddle of water, and I bring my grandsons over here to float a little sailboat in it. Am I also going to get checked out by the EPA?
It's certainly a risk you run. One of the unfortunate things is that because they have such incredibly powerful and coercive tools, there's not a lot you can do to stand up to them. And this is a situation that's likely only going to get worse as a result of the new Waters of the United States rule. As I'm sure your listeners are aware, this is the new regulation that purports to define EPA's jurisdiction and enforce the Clean Water Act, and it basically declares that they can regulate all of the water in the United States and much of the dry land.
So what are we going to do, Jonathan? I mean, your telephone line is going to be lit up. It's going to look like a Christmas tree of people calling from all over the United States to have you and the Pacific Legal Foundation help us. Well, what are we going to do?
Well, right now what we're doing is we're challenging the compliance order, and we are optimistic that we will succeed in getting that struck down. But I think the bigger issue is to spread awareness about what's going on, to tell stories like this to your listeners and for them to tell their friends, so that people understand that this is a really big issue. It could affect everyone. And I think Andy Johnson's case is a perfect example that even if you do absolutely everything right and actually make the environment better, that won't insulate you from the potential of massive fines.
Well, what about Andy? You know, he seemed like a really nice guy, and I had him on the air, and we were talking about him and his family, and he just wants to enjoy the great open area of Wyoming. What about Andy? What's happening to him?
I mean, as I'm sure you can imagine, this has been an incredible experience and a terrible, frightening experience.
Right.
He has had this property for a little over a decade. It was his little piece of the American dream. It's where he built his home and started a small ranch as a side hobby and business. And all he did was something that many, many, many people throughout Wyoming, the West, and agricultural areas do, which is create a stock pond. But, because he cares about the land and he cares about conservation, he actually made sure his stock pond was environmentally friendly. So he was completely blindsided by this accusation he violated the Clean Water Act and these sorts of threats. And it has, turned his family life into chaos.
Yeah. What would have happened, and I know this is pie in the sky, but what would have happened, Jonathan, had he absolutely done nothing? If he would have said, nope, I've got the permits, I've done everything legal with the state of Wyoming, I've got the permits, and he just turned a deaf ear and a blind eye to the EPA, what would have happened then?
So that's something a property owner can do, but you do it at your peril, because every single day it's another potential $37,500 in fines. And ultimately, the government can sue you whenever it wants. It can wait as long as it wants and let those fines build. And ultimately, you are facing, financial ruin for you and your family for the rest of your life if you run that risk and get unlucky.
The thing is, you, of all people, being a very professional attorney and understanding all this, why haven't more people really turned the tables on the EPA and looked them in the eye and said, wait a minute, who are you? You do not have congressional power. You were never appointed. You are never anointed. We're going to take you and sue you and dismantle your whole operation. Why hasn't that been done?
I think we're starting to see it now. There's been a lot of pushback on the new Waters of the United States rule. Since filing this lawsuit, it has got a lot of attention, and it is purely coincidentally, it was filed around the same time as when EPA itself dumped 3 million gallons of toxic chemicals into the Animas River.
Yeah.
So it provides a useful contrast between what they're doing to destroy the environment and what Andy has done to benefit the environment and how EPA is treating him. But the reality is stories like this weren't told until 2 or 3 years ago, because prior to that, you could do nothing when EPA threatened you like this. Your only choice was to give in, because the courts had held that you couldn't take EPA to court and challenge what they were doing. It was only in a case at Pacific Legal Foundation, my firm actually litigated and took all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and won, called Sackett versus EPA, that established the right for property owners in situations like Andy to be able to go to court and say, no, EPA, what you're doing is wrong and illegal, and you cannot threaten me like this.
What are you doing, Jonathan, on behalf of not only your desk and your briefcase, but also the Pacific Legal Foundation? What are you doing to try to help this man? I mean, what's the net or end result that you're shooting for?
Andy is not trying to get any money, nor is PLF. PLF is a nonprofit law firm that's been representing property owners that are being abused by government for over 40 years. We represent all of our clients for free, and of course we are with Andy. And the goal of this lawsuit is simple. The compliance order is illegal, and its threat of fines is incredibly coercive and abusive, and it must be struck down, and that is the only thing we're seeking in this lawsuit.
Okay, so where are you? I mean, this thing, I can't imagine the duress that this man and his family are under. I can't imagine waking up every morning and realizing that's another $37,500 against you in fines. I can't imagine the mental anguish and the turmoil. I can't imagine what they're going through. And what are you doing on behalf of Pacific Legal Foundation to help salve the wound?
Yeah, I can't imagine either. I mean, it takes a lot of courage for Andy Johnson to stand up like he has. So as I mentioned, PLF filed a lawsuit on his behalf late last month. We are waiting for the government's response, and we'll be diligently litigating that case. Hopefully we'll have a decision from the trial court sometime early next year, which, if we're successful, will mean that those fines stop mounting and that the threat is removed from Andy Johnson.
Do you think that there is a chance that this man can walk away from this with his head held high and his billfold still full of his money that he's earned to provide food for his family?
Of course there's a chance. The Clean Water Act is absolutely clear. It says that stock ponds are exempt from federal regulation. This should be an easy, straightforward case. Even setting aside the unbelievable environmental benefits created by the pond, the legal issue is clear and should be easy. Now, the unfortunate reality of suing the government is that courts like to bend over backwards to defer to bureaucrats and government officials. So it's always hard when you take the government on. But I think the legal issues here are clear, our arguments are strong, and that Andy has a very good chance of ultimately prevailing.
Is this case going to go on and on and on like an old 78 record, or do you anticipate that maybe within this year, 2015, there may be a closure that could happen?
Well, let's hope it doesn't drag on, because that would certainly not be fair to Andy and his family.
Right.
But ultimately, that is in the court's hands. They get to decide when to rule on the case, and they get to determine how quickly it happens. But we're hopeful, given how straightforward the issue in this case is. As I said, it's just when Congress said the federal government can't regulate stock ponds, didn't mean it. Given how simple that should be for a court to decide, we're optimistic that we'll get a decision soon.
You know, and by the way, Jonathan, tell my audience, this can happen to anybody, anywhere. What would you tell my audience about being aware of potential hazards and dangers with the EPA? And you know probably more about it than anybody. What would you tell my audience?
Yeah, the reality and what this case demonstrates is that there's little you can do to be certain that EPA won't go after you. So this is one of the most ridiculous cases, but another one that PLF litigated in the last few years involved a property owner in the middle of the desert in Arizona who removed trash from a dry ditch on his property, something called a desert arroyo. And EPA accused him of violating the Clean Water Act by pulling that trash out because during the 2 or 3 times a year it rains in the middle of the desert, the water that runs off ultimately goes down that ditch. So there's little property in the country that is off limits to EPA, particularly how they broadly interpret their authority. So, I think cases like this are extremely important to push back on that authority so that property owners that find themselves in the unfortunate situation that Andy Johnson is in have some hope.
Wait a minute, I'm confused. You mean to tell me that this property owner in Arizona went out and picked up trash in a old dried up riverbed and they came after him? Good Lord, man, what are you talking about?
That's absolutely right, and we sued on his behalf saying this was not a, quote, water of the United States. It was a dry ditch, and they had no authority to regulate it, and ultimately they backed down. But, a few years ago, before the property owner had that right to go to court, he probably would have been stuck with EPA controlling his property forever.
Oh, my goodness. You see, these are stories, Jonathan, that should be brought out on the radio, and people should be made aware of the thuggery and the absolute mafia style that these EPA people want. What do? They have people just going out and trying to find these stories? How did they find out about Andy Johnson in Wyoming in the first place?
It's not completely clear how they got upset at Andy, but the way, frankly, these stories usually work is someone has a neighbor or a local government official who doesn't like them and knows to contact EPA or the Army Corps of Engineers and complain. A lot of these things ultimately are derived from incredibly petty local grievances that have nothing to do with the environment or clean water or federal regulation, but end up becoming federal cases because EPA oversteps.
Oh, my goodness. And what about it? If somebody has a problem and, they need help, tell us a little bit about Pacific Legal real quick as far as what you can do to aid and assist them.
Sure. Pacific Legal Foundation is the nation's oldest, most experienced nonprofit law firm dedicated to defending property rights and constitutional rights from a conservative libertarian perspective. If anyone has an issue with the EPA overreach where they think that the government doesn't have any power to regulate them, I would encourage them to contact Pacific Legal Foundation. You can find us on the web at pacificlegal.org and Facebook and Twitter. We are always looking for great cases that have great facts, particularly when they're good for the environment like Andy Johnson's case is.
Oh, my.
But, hopefully EPA will realize the error of its ways and stop abusing people like this, but given that's not likely to happen, I'd encourage your listeners to be on the lookout for potential cases. So.
If you get a chance to talk to Andy again, and I'm sure you will, tell him Zeb Bell said hello and God's blessings to him, and keep up the good fight. And Jonathan Wood, I say thank you to you and Pacific Legal Foundation. I really appreciate you coming on the air this morning, and I'll be in touch and have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet, sir. Wow. I remember vividly having Andy on the program, and very soft-spoken gentleman, and he built that stock pond for the benefit of his livestock at his place and also for a little boating and recreation area for the kids to play in and everything. Didn't do any harm, had the permits from the state of Wyoming, jumped through all the hoops, and then here comes the thugs and the punks with the EPA and threatening him $37,500 a day to dismantle it, remove it, even though even though, and here's the key, it was actually benefiting the environment and making for cleaner water. The idiocy of governmental groups. That's what they are, a group of idiots that have no practical knowledge or practical know-how. Like the EPA, I have no respect for them in any way, shape, or form. And I dare say, I'll go back to what I mentioned at about 10 minutes after the hour. If I dug a little bitty pond, maybe 3 feet by 3 feet, out in my orchard, for one of my grandsons to come here and float a little boat and play with it, they'd probably come and say that I have altered or done something with the waters of the United States. This is how completely imbecilic they are. And I'm going to try to impose on Andy, and I know they've been having a lot of mental anguish over this story over in Wyoming, and I'm going to try to have him back on the air again and talk about what's going on, because can you imagine, like I said, every day waking up and knowing that you're going to fight the government, you're going to fight the EPA, but knowing they're tacking on another $37,500 in fines, that has got to just absolutely wear on a family situation. Absolutely disgusting, and it makes me furious. Oh, boy. Anyhow, Ramsey Heating and Electric can offer rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. As a Lennox independent dealer, as they have been for almost 50 years, they know the climate, they know the equipment, and they've done all the shopping for you. Please call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money. That number again, 678-0459. Warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric, of which we will be over there tomorrow. Don't forget that for our great big remote broadcast. By the way, tomorrow we're also going to be announcing, and I'm going to tell you the game right now so you can start figuring out the winner and or the point spread. Game 3 will be, this is going to be a good game, Declo Hornets against the Kimberly Bulldogs. That is Game 3 for this weekend, and send those to me, zeb@theranch@hotmail.com, or call my cell phone and leave a message at 312-2976, and pick the winner of the game between Declo and Kimberly, and the closest to the final score is going to win a great big delicious Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Don't forget, get your picks in and get those taken care of. You can start sending them in today, I don't care, and we're going to mention it again many times tomorrow. The game between Declo and Kimberly is our featured game of the week for the Grand Slam breakfast at Denny's. Don't miss that. We're going to be back in a few minutes with Doug Johnson. Don't go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Wow, I'm still fuming over that last case we were talking about last half hour with my friend Andy Johnson over in Wyoming, and it's going to take me a long time to get settled down. I am mad. We are going to go to the phone line right now, and I'll talk to Doug about that for just a moment. Doug Johnson, my dear friend in Colorado. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Zeb. How are you this morning?
Well, good. Doug, I know we want to talk about Carly Fiorina, and we're going to get there in just a minute, but I just had on an update on my program in regards to Wyoming rancher Andy Johnson that built a stock pond with the state approval. He had all the state permits, but the EPA went in, and they're threatening him with $37,500 per day in fines if he doesn't remove that stock pond, even though it's been a great benefit to the environment and a lot cleaner water, and they're coming after him. And right now he's over $16 million to the EPA, a bunch of thugs and punks. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, I think you phrased it well. One of the things I would hope whoever becomes our next president does is they would abolish the EPA. This organization, or whatever you want to call it, department, not only violates the law constantly, it violates the rights of Americans. They do no good for the environment or for America. And so I think it's high time we rid the nation of them. along with a few other agencies, are worthless. And I would count that high on my list of things that would cause me to support a candidate.
You know, Doug, I had Andy on my program about a year ago, a very, very nice man, but can you imagine the mental anguish that's hanging over his head and his family's head every day, as I said a moment ago, getting out of bed and knowing that there's another $37,500 in fines from the EPA because he is not going to do it. He's going to keep that water tank. He's going to fight the EPA. I just would love to be there and poke one of those EPA thugs right in the nose. They deserve it for the way they treat human beings.
Well, they're typical of even though the people he's dealing with may not be directly from Washington, they're controlled by those people in Washington, and they have an attitude that they are above the rest of us. You know, there is an attitude among these leftists, which is all they are, that they are above the rest of us, and we're just a bunch of peons who should do what they tell us. And of course, the ultimate goal is to get us to the point, and they're hoping in the very near future, where they get us out of rural areas and out of small cities and move on to major cities and look like cities like Hong Kong and Singapore, where everybody lives in high rises, and your work is in the high rise, your shopping is in the high rise, everything you do, you very rarely even leave that building, and that's what the goal is. That's part of Agenda 21.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize that. That's what the EPA is doing. They're pushing the whole plan for sustainable development, which is to get us out of using our country and our land for what it's really there for.
And thank the good Lord above for Andy Johnson having the pugnacious attitude to say, no, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm going to fight him. We need more people that'll stand up and fight him.
Well, we have to have, and we have to have it on all fronts. You know, he's right for fighting that, just as Kim Davis was right for the stand she took in Kentucky, just as you go down the list, and every so often we see somebody with the courage of Andy or Kim or anybody else that will stand up and say, enough, I won't take it, and I will risk losing everything because, like our founders thought, if I can't have what God has granted me, then I would rather not exist.
You know, I want to ask you a quick question on some other topic too, Doug, and I know you're well versed on this, and I'll try to make a quick summation on the question. I mentioned earlier about how aghast I was that certain schools are making allowances for Muslim girls to develop their own uniforms so that they can play basketball and volleyball, and these uniforms are totally against the grain of what the other kids or girls are wearing on the team. I'm against it. I'm absolutely speaking out against it. But now, if Christians would all sew a cross on their uniform, I'll bet you there would be heck to pay, and they would be forced to take that off their uniform before they could play. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to go a little further and pose a question to you, Zeb. This is a really interesting question you raise, and I'm not saying I agree with what they're doing. I'm just posing the question. My wife, who is Christian, was Christian long before me. She grew up in a Christian home. Her father was a minister, and they were very conservative. And when she was going to school, they got special permission for her to wear other than the standard school uniform because it was in her beliefs, in our beliefs, was too revealing, and she had to have something more conservative, more modest. And so the school allowed her to do that. And so the question would be, was the school wrong to let her do that?
Okay, I'll answer that very quickly and succinctly. I believe the school should have said, well, I'm sorry, but we have a uniform policy. Uniform, meaning they all wear the same thing to conform with the agreements of the team and the coaching staff and our athletic directorship. And if you can't abide by that, then you don't play. That's my feelings, and I'll stand behind it.
Okay, well, and now we're talking here, in my wife's case, it was not a sports team. It was to take the physical education classes that were required by law for her to take. So are you saying she should have had to be forced out of the school and not go to school, or flunk physical education and therefore not get a degree?
You did not state it was not an athletic team. You did not state it was physical fitness and part of the physical education program.
I should have, but no, this was the standard physical fitness programs everybody was required to take, and the standard school uniforms were not. They were too immodest for her beliefs, and so her family went and asked the school for special permission to change that. But still, it's a school uniform, and it really should be no different than a sports team in my mind. The rules should be the same as to whether they would allow an exception. And I don't really have a position on this, but it was just interesting when you raised it. I remembered her telling me about that years ago, and that popped into my head. And so it does raise an interesting question.
But the point is, Doug, are we going to have a complete breakdown of rules, regulations, and team and uniform? Are we going to be dictated to by, in this case, the Muslims and their Islamic beliefs, to the point where we as Christians, we would not be allowed, and you know I'm right on this, if everybody put a cross on their jersey, that would soon be taken off by the administrative forces. They would stop that. And the Muslims get away with this, and that is my bone of contention.
Well, and like I say, I'm not taking a position, but I bristle a little bit at it because we're supposed to be a pluralistic society, and in the Muslim faith, they believe in more modesty. And so that's what the changes in the uniform would be to be more modest. That's not the same as putting a cross on a uniform. And so I have to say that they're taking a stand saying, you know, I can't wear something that's so immodest because of my faith, is really no different than Kim Davis standing up and saying, I can't issue a marriage license because of my faith.
Yeah, but they put her in jail.
They did, but it's not about what they did to her. It's about what is right or wrong in our society. And it's a serious question we need to raise and answer. Now, I do think that the answer, whatever it is, won't be easy. But I do think we need to raise it, because if we're going to be, and forget my word reasonable, I was going to use, if we're going to really do the right thing, then we've got to have equality for everybody, which means if we allow an exception for one group, we have to allow it for another. Just as another good example, my wife was a school teacher for years in public school, and every so often she'd get a child who was a Jehovah's Witness, and they could not celebrate birthdays or say the pledge to the flag, things like that. And so they made exception and didn't require those children to do that. And so do we as a nation say, no, you can't, we don't care about your faith, we're going to force you to do this?
But what I am saying, you're getting away from the general point that I was making, is that we are seeing a faction coming into this country with the, no, we're not going to be dictated to by the American judicial system. We want to be dictated to by Sharia law. No, our girls will not wear your uniforms for basketball and volleyball. They will wear the hijab headdress and plus a full body covering, and or else we will sue. See, we're seeing a threatening of our society by a group that's externally coming in here and reaping havoc on everything that America stands for. The athletic teams, the education system, the judicial system. This is what's changing, Doug.
Well, I think you're actually covering more issues than just the one that you're laying out there for your audience. I think that you've got a couple things. Number one, of course, we're not going to allow Sharia law. We are not a nation of Sharia law.
It's already been imposed in some places, Doug.
Into our country to become citizens here, because we as a nation have a right to decide who will and who won't be part of our nation. And if you're not going to assimilate, then you shouldn't be part of the nation. On the same count, just as Orthodox Jews or other religious groups have their traditions and their beliefs, we should not ask people to commit what would be a sin to us Christians or to a Jew. We should not ask them to do that. So there's got to be a balancing point. It's one thing for them to say the uniform is too revealing and my faith does not allow me to wear that. That's a whole lot different than saying we are going to live under Sharia law in America. And so I think we need to decide where that dividing line is. But we also need to decide in immigration who we're going to allow into our country, what kind of people. We have the right as a people, as a nation, to decide what our culture will allow.
But it's not being done.
And that's the biggest thing that offends me.
It's not being done, though. We are being forced and coerced, and you know this, Doug, and we're suffering from it right here in this area, to accept refugees from Syria right now that are going to be starting to come in the next 30 days right here to this area. We don't know who they are. We don't know about their vetting process. We don't know about their politics and policies. We don't know anything about them, and we're being told by the government, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. So this is another forced inclusion that most people don't want.
Well, it is, and this goes back to what we so often talk about. This is why we need to clean house and throw out virtually every single person in the House and Senate, because they aren't standing up for us. A very, very small minority are, and it's time we replace them all. Not just the people in leadership, but the people who aren't voting the way we want them to. They can control this. They can control what goes on in our government. We need to greatly downsize our government and get it back to being controlled by the people and not by the bureaucrats. And that's really what this comes down to, because these things will continue to happen as long as those people are in office and will not take a stand. Right now we have this Iran deal, this Iran nuclear deal, and the Republicans they've already allowed things to go as far as they have. Obama now wins. Thanks to Mitch McConnell, the rules have been changed, so Obama doesn't need a majority of senators to agree with him to keep this thing in force. And as a result, it's going to happen. We need, and now the Republicans are starting to act like they're all concerned about this. If they were concerned, they never would have changed the rules in the first place. They saw this coming, and they changed it specifically for this deal. Our problems come back to who we put in office and allow to be there, and this is where I am saying on every program I'm on, if you are out there listening and you know you have some ability, you know somebody does, you have some ability to lead at all, go get involved. Run for office. Run for your local school board. Run for the mayor's office. Run for city council. Run for county commissioner. Run for state legislator. Run for the House or the Senate in Washington. These positions are all critical, and we need to get good, fresh blood in there. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble. And this is why when you look at this pack of people on the Republican side running for office, you know, for the presidential nominations, Zeb, this is why it's scary, because very few of these people in my book are worth serious consideration.
I can't argue that at all. I agree with you. I've got about 7 minutes left, and I'm sorry I jumped off topic here a little bit this morning, and I want to get back to your Horse Sense blog on Carly Fiorina. You have sat down and given a lot of diligent thought as to maybe the pros and the cons about Carly Fiorina, and maybe some things that should be brought to light. I'm going to let you encompass those in just you got about 3 minutes to go ahead, and then I'll interrupt, and we'll go into another topic. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, you know, Carly Fiorina has impressed a lot of us, myself included. She speaks well. She takes, you know, she doesn't take any grief or any guff from any interviewer. She stands strong. But as she's rising in the polls, becoming really a serious contender, I started thinking, you know, we really need to know more about her. I know a little bit about her, things I've liked. I know she's been misrepresented on what happened at Hewlett-Packard, things like that.
Right.
And so I thought, but I need to know more. So I started, because I had a number of friends asking me all the time about her too. So I started doing some research, and this weekend kind of concluded that and threw together what I would call 10 questions or 10 issues that I think she needs to address before anybody decides to support her. And at thehorsesenseblog.com, I've done an article that lists those 10 things, and we'll just hit some of them because I think they're important, and a lot of people may not realize. For example, she has taken a stand. As you know, some of the candidates, such as Donald Trump, have said we need to end birthright citizenship. Just because you come across the border and are born on American soil does not mean, and there's nothing in the Constitution that guarantees that you should be a citizen, yet somehow we allow this to happen. Mm-hmm. She takes the stand that we need a constitutional amendment, which we don't, to do this, and it's not worth fighting. This raises great concerns because I believe that immigration is a much bigger issue than people realize.
I agree.
It's not just about people coming across that border. It's about the whole future of our country.
I agree.
We were talking a couple minutes ago. People coming in from other cultures, from other countries, they're no longer assimilating the way they used to. They're not becoming part of the American melting pot that they did for generations throughout our history. And so, in fact, they come here specifically to have kids, to then have rights because their kids are American citizens. So she is not taking a stand against changing that, and that was a great concern to me. Another thing is, on that same issue, she supported and let me say this before I go any further, a lot of these things come over the last few years, what have been able to find out about her. I'm not saying it's where she is today, but she's not taking a stand that we can find to change these positions.
Right.
We need to find out, does she still stand on these things, or has she changed, and if so, why?
You know,
the second thing is the Gang of Eight bill for amnesty that Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham and Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin and all those guys put together from the Senate. She supported it and said she applauded it and saluted it, and it should move forward for a vote. And that's really concerning that she was in favor of that. And some of that may come because John McCain was part of that, and she was part of his campaign in 2008. In fact, so much so that she supported the TARP bailout, which sent this whole country into this huge recession. That was the start of this mess economically. And she supported it and believed it didn't go far enough. And frankly, Zeb, we know that the economy is in big trouble right now. It looks very seriously like we very shortly, like in the next couple of months, could see ourselves go back into a recession. Well, actually, we never got out of the recession, but go far worse off than we were as a result of the 2008 recession. And so my question then to her would be, so are you going to support another TARP-like bailout for another $1 trillion or so to be wasted of taxpayer money? And
Absolutely.
How does it help America?
Let me jump in, Doug.
There's 10 of them. I won't be through all 10 because I know we only have a little bit of time here. But she also had the nerve to play the gender card.
Right.
It just stuns me how a Republican, a supposed conservative, can use race or gender or anything like this. But when the whole battle came up between Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly on Fox News, that I've written over and over again about and showed all the lies that Fox News management stood behind and still stands behind, she took the side of Megyn Kelly as a woman when Megyn Kelly had blatantly lied and misrepresented what Donald Trump's past was. And I have a problem because that smacks of this whole idea of this gender equality. She also, when asked recently about is she running for vice president, she got very offended and said that somebody wouldn't ask this question of a male candidate when many male candidates have been asked this question. And so she's using the gender thing supposedly to her advantage. I bristle at that. I would bristle if Ben Carson used his race as a black man, which he does not. I respect him for that. Or if Ted Cruz used his ethnicity as being of Hispanic descent as an issue, but he doesn't. Marco Rubio does. Marco Rubio does use his ethnicity, and I think it's wrong. I think we should be looking for a leader who can lead, and their qualifications should have nothing to do with the color of their skin or the gender they have.
Absolutely.
And so it's these kind of things I list out in here that really raise concern we need to look at and find out where is she today on these things. And if she hasn't changed, then we need to really seriously consider whether she's worthy of the nomination.
You know, I really appreciated, I want to say this up front again, Doug, I called him early this morning. I had a change with one guest that couldn't make it on the program, and Doug was very gracious and said, I'll jump in and fill it, and you did very, very well as always. Now we're going to revert back to the original schedule next Monday and have you back on the air. Doug, God bless you, and I mean it. I like a good spirited debate on any topic, and you did very well this morning. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Zeb. I appreciate your calling, and I enjoyed being here.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself. Thank you very much. Doug Johnson in Colorado. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got to pay some bills. Oh, the weather forecast. Wheels, I'm a-coming. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Your hometown meat cutter. Oh, boy. And they have all the meat from the 4-H and FFA Fat Stock Sale at the Twin Falls County Fair. You want some? You call them today at 324-7657. They guarantee, like I said, everything they sell at Scarro's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here is the weather.
Here's your weather forecast as we finally hit midweek sunny skies for today. Slightly breezy, winds out of the west by around 10 miles an hour. Expect a high of 85 for today, tonight low 48. Tomorrow, sunny skies getting close to 90, still slightly breezy. Pretty much the same for Friday. Saturday, looks like sunny and 90. Sunday, sunny and mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, man, that is a good sounding weather forecast. Thank you, Gina. Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. It's true. They changing the way we eat. One delicious bite at a time at Scarro's Meats. Thank you, Don Scarrow and the whole crew at Scarro's in Jerome. Tomorrow we are going to be at Ramsey Heating and Electric for our remote broadcast starting at about, we'll be on the air at 8:06 as always, but we're going to open the doors and have free donuts and milk and hot coffee. And come on down. And we are asking for a Goodwill donation to go to the Zeb at the Ranch Needy Family Fund for Christmas. And we're going to ask you to put the loot in the boot so we can help more folks at Christmas time. We'd sure appreciate that. And we're going to be down there on behalf of all the folks celebrating and commemorating Patriots Day, and also the Hats Off to Farmers campaign at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And lots of interesting people. George Mass and many of his friends are going to be there. We're going to have a lot of great interviews, so come on down and enjoy as we have a full 3-hour remote broadcast over at Ramsey's tomorrow morning. Try to be there. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And I'm looking right now at a great big printout of all the different tires that are on sale right now, like the Eclipse tire. All-season traction, smooth, quiet ride for your passenger cars. And for your pickups and SUVs, the Open Country HT. All-season design, superior handling. They've got all the tires for your driving needs. All you have to do is stop in to any one of the 7 locations, and they can help you with the best in tires, naturally, the best in brake service, naturally, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. It's all there for you at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and of course Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Absolutely the best. Let's see. Tomorrow, all of our different segments tomorrow are going to be on the air via the remote broadcast over at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Come on down, say howdy, come on the air with us. We've done this show over at Ramsey's, for the last 10 or 11 years, and I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow, and I know that a lot of interesting people coming through the door, and we'll get them on the air, and I asked my good friend George Mass to help us with some of the guests for our Patriots Day, so it should be a lot of fun. Don't forget that tomorrow at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And we will also be taking, starting today, I will take some today because I know we're going to get a bunch, of the Game of the Week prognostications. The game between Declo and Kimberly is game number 3 this week in the Game of the Week. And the winner with the right team and the closest to the final score will receive a Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's Restaurant in Burley. And you can send those to Zeb at the Ranch at hotmail.com or call my cell phone at 312-2976. Okay? Zeb at the Ranch, ZEBATTHERANCH, and then the @ hotmail.com. So send those, get them off today so we can start compiling all the winners for that big Game of the Week. You are listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call them at 312-0957. Thank you very much. So until tomorrow, tune in on KBAR 1230 AM and streaming live on the internet all over the world on ZebBell.com. Have a great day, and remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Thanks, Wheels. Talk to you in the morning. Take care.